After 3 years of diligently serving as a stand-in, the beloved white moonlight returned. I packed my bags and left without a second thought, even taking all the cash from Fang Yannian's pockets. I've long grown tired of this game, sister. I stood at the entrance of the elegant, upscale club holding a takeaway bag, calling the customer. Hello, Mr. Fang. Your delivery is here. The security guard won't let me in, and I can't leave it on the ground either. Could you please come out and get it? I'm in a bit of a rush. There was no response from the other end. I glanced up at the familiar club sign, suddenly worried that this Mr. Fang might be Fang Yannian. Fortunately, an unfamiliar voice promptly proved me wrong. All right, wait a moment. Ah, Lili. Stop being so self-absorbed. The weather was scorching. The security guard wouldn't let me near the entrance, complaining that I ruined the club's image. So, I squatted by the wall, fanning myself with my hand, thinking, bloody hell, I'm worth millions myself. Who do they think they're looking down on? A pair of legs stopped in front of me. I looked up, squinting against the glaring sunlight, and the next moment, someone grabbed me by the collar and hoisted me up. The person pinned me against the wall, gritting his teeth. Lili, are you mad? If you needed money, why didn't you ask Fang Yanmin for it? What are you doing delivering takeaways? I stared straight into Fang Yannian's deep, dark eyes. They were blazing with anger, his face vividly expressive, no longer lifeless. I couldn't help but marvel. White moonlight truly is something else. I couldn't cure his illness in 3 years, but she managed it in just one night. Then, with genuine feeling, I remarked, so you're better now. But then I reconsidered. Wait, did you order this delivery? Why did you have someone else answer the phone? Feeling guilty? Fang Yannian looked as if he wanted to throttle me. Eventually, he stiffly tried to drag me into the club. I refused, shoving the takeaway into his hands and attempting to bolt. I've got more deliveries to make. Fang Yannian sneered. If you run, I'll have your app hacked. From then on, you'll only be able to accept orders from me. I pleaded earnestly. Isn't it inappropriate for us to be entangled like this? What if he misunderstands? Having me stuck between you two for 3 whole years, that's quite a significant burden. If you don't properly make it up to her, what if she leaves again? Fang Yannian cut me off. Lili, do you have a heart? I shook my head. It's not about whether I have a heart. It's about whether you'll have a wife. His face turned pale with rage. His lips quivered for a moment before he suddenly bowed his head and kissed me, fiercely and urgently. My limbs went weak. When he finally released me, I slumped to the ground in despair. You've eaten jackfruit. Fang Yannian crouched down beside me, looking utterly exasperated, and popped a sweet into my mouth. Lili, your contract with Fang Yanmin is over. What if I offer you a new one now? He asked seriously. I want to hire you for life. I smirked. Hire me for life as he used substitute. He froze for a second, then shook his head. Lili, you promised you'd stay with me forever. You can't break your word. I snorted. What, young master? Fancy having your cake and eating it too? But he stated word by word. No, I only want you. There was that damp, pleading look in his eyes again. I could barely resist the urge to ruffle his hair. New order available in the order hall. The abrupt notification broke the awkward silence. I immediately grabbed my phone and accepted the order, sprang to my feet, and dashed towards my moped. I think you're still not well. You should book an appointment with Dr. Chen. I've got work to do. We'll talk another time. Bloody hell, this melodramatic dialogue and the brewing showdown were enough to make my skin crawl. Between a delivery girl stand-in and the esteemed white moonlight, anyone with half a brain would know which to choose. I had no desire to get tangled in this wealthy family's drama. Half an hour later, I found myself back at the club on my moped, staring at Fang Yannian, who was clearly waiting for me. I was rendered utterly speechless. A sly smile spread across Fang Yannian's face. In 3 years together, I'd seen less expression on his face than I had in this single afternoon. He took the cup of bubble tea from me, pulled out a straw, pierced the seal, and handed it back. Then he winked at me. Sister, you're sweating quite a bit. Have some tea to cool down. His behavior gave me a start. Don't call me sister. It makes me feel old. Fang Yannian feigned innocence. But aren't you 3 years older than me? Bugger. I took a sip of the tea, chewing on the tapioca pearls as I mumbled, "What exactly do you want? Spit it out clearly. Stop being so ambiguous." "I just want to be entangled with you." I looked at him, completely baffled. "I'm starting to think you've recovered a bit too quickly. Were you putting on an act before?" It felt like I was only now truly getting to know him for the first time. Fang Yannian was ill. Seriously ill. The Fang family had hired every renowned psychologist, both domestic and international, but to no avail. They were so desperate they nearly followed him in jumping off a building. And then I appeared. Actually, I was just delivering a bubble tea order. I'd queued for ages under the sweltering sun to get it. Arriving drenched in sweat at the office of Fang Yannian, the eldest Fang brother, just as he was inspecting the departments. He stared at me, utterly shocked, grabbing my bright yellow delivery jacket as he exclaimed incredulously, "He? You're not dead? When did you return to the country?" I was baffled and had no time for this. I set down the tea, swiftly pulled out my phone to mark the order as complete, and immediately accepted a new one. Wiping my sweat, I pushed past him, ready to leave. Men only slow down my delivery speed. But Fang Yannian persisted, grabbing for me again. I stopped, turned back, and flashed a smile with all 8 teeth showing. "Hello, sir. I'm Sue Lili. Here's my card. If you need any errands run, feel free to contact me." I shoved a crudely made business card into his hand and bolted while he was still processing it. Handsome men are precious. Positive ratings are prized higher. But for the sake of money, both can be tossed into the fire. The next day, Fang Yannian convinced me to skip work with an offer of 1,000 quid per day, inviting me to the Fang residence. After being scrutinized from every angle by 2 elders and 1 young man for what felt like an eternity, they decided to offer me a new job. A daily salary of 3,000, with meals and accommodation included, social security and pension funds, and a hefty severance package should I resign. Who would turn down such an offer? So, I was scrubbed clean and delivered to Fang Yannian's bed. No, mainly because Fang Yannian didn't sleep in his bed. Ours was a purely professional employer-employee relationship. Well, it started out purely professional. Before meeting him, Fang Yannian briefed me, explaining that Fang Yannian was mentally very unstable. I had to humor him in speech and action, avoiding anything that might upset him. If he had an episode and couldn't be calmed, I was to administer a sedative injection. I didn't have much respect for a man who would threaten suicide over a woman. But my heart softened when Fang Yannian clutched my sleeve and called me Zhao Yi. His irregular sleep schedule had left him pale as a ghost. His eyes dark but lifeless, his face stubbled and lips chapped. At 20, he seemed to carry the soul of an 80-year-old, exuding an aura of decay. The hand gripping my sleeve had several scars layered over the bluish-purple veins on his wrist. Noticing my gaze there, he flinched and retracted his hand slightly. His body, which had begun to relax, started shrinking back towards the corner again. "I'm broken. I'm filthy ... He didn't seem like a grown man at all. One might easily mistake him for a terrified young child. Fang Yanming stood at the doorway, not entering. Perhaps the prolonged silence made him anxious, and he cautiously peeked into the room. I had just managed to coax Fang Yannian into looking at me. But when he raised his head, his eyes looked past me directly at Fang Yanmin, and his expression instantly shifted. Sensing this, I used my body to block his view, adopting a coaxing tone. "Anayan, I've been away for so long, and I'm rather tired. Will you rest with me for a bit?" Fang Yannian's unfocused gaze landed on my face. Suddenly he let out a soft sob and threw himself at me. Startled, I was about to push him away when I felt droplets of water falling on my neck, damp and slightly ticklish. Fang Yannian held me tightly, whispering, "Zhao Yi, you're back. Does that mean you won't leave again?" He reminded me of a soaked, pathetic puppy. I patted his head. I'm not leaving. I'll stay with you from now on." 3 years later, I placed the key in the flower pot by Fang Yannian's front door and turned to leave without a hint of nostalgia. A qualified substitute lover knows when to make like a ghost and vanish. That evening, while having drinks with Li Zhaocean, she loudly mocked me. Looking at you drowning your sorrows alone like this, and you call that vanishing? Didn't you two establish a proper relationship? Couldn't you have fought for him bravely? I rolled my eyes. I'm celebrating my new job, all right? She clicked her tongue dismissively. You stayed by his side for 3 years and saved up several million, yet you've gone back to delivering takeaways. Lili, are you mad? I ignored her, sipping my drink quietly, but my mind kept drifting back to the sight of Fang Yanian's damp eyes just before I left. Even though his beloved white moonlight, Yi, the one he'd been willing to die for, was standing right beside him, he only had eyes for me. In a hoarse voice, he asked, Lili, are you abandoning me too? Didn't you promise you'd stay with me forever? Are you lying to me as well? It was then I realized he actually knew my name. After 3 years of hearing Zhao Yi, I'd almost started believing I was Yi. But when the radiant Yi stood before me, I finally understood. A substitute will always be just a substitute. Because I'd mentioned Fang Yanmin, Fang Yanian frowned, a flicker of disgust quickly passing through his eyes. Although I had no interest in wealthy family dramas, recalling Fang Yanian's emotional fluctuations over the past 3 years, I felt a twinge of concern. Having looked after the lad for 3 years, I developed some feelings. I suspected that the incidents leading to Yi's disappearance abroad were all connected to Fang Yanmin. I was sipping my bubble tea and pondering this when someone shouted from the club entrance. Nian Jay, what's taking so long just to get a delivery? I turned and saw a familiar face, raising an eyebrow. During the 2nd year with Fang Yanian, his mood had stabilized enough to resume some social activities. Zhou Yun visited most frequently, always smoothly addressing me as sister-in-law. Of course, after finding out Yi had returned, he was the one who gloated the most triumphantly. Now, he ambled over slowly, looking a bit guilty. Sisahem, Lili, what are you doing here? He paused, his gaze falling on my bright yellow delivery uniform, and frowned, giving Fang Yanian a disapproving look. Nian Jay, did you dump Lili, and are now getting back at her? That's a bit low, isn't it? Fang Yanian's eyebrow twitched and he shot me a subtle glare. Since I couldn't completely extricate myself from the Fang family just yet, I stopped being in a rush to leave. I stood on my tiptoes and boldly ruffled his hair, then turned and gave Zhou Yun a gentle smile. What did you call me? He shuddered at my deliberately sweet tone. Liji. Yes? I responded sweetly, then continued gently. What business is it of yours what I do? What business is it of yours what my relationship with Anayan is? As my words hung in the air, the stiff head under my palm softened, obediently lowering a little further. I saw the corner of his mouth sneak upwards, and couldn't resist giving his hair another ruffle. Zhou Yun. My mistake. I shouldn't be here. I should be under the car. He silently took 2 steps back, turned and walked away. Fang Yanian said quietly, Will you come back with me? I laughed. Go back for what? To join you and Yi. He frowned. She and I cut him off. I'm an ordinary person. I don't have the energy to get involved in your affairs. Besides, I've already taken the severance package from the Fang family. The contract is over. There's no reason for me to go back. A shadow of gloom flashed in Fang Yanian's eyes. Can't I be the reason? I smiled, almost cruelly. No. Fang Yanian clenched his fists. I held his fist and patiently pried his fingers open one by one. I've been with you too long. You're just not used to me being gone. Once you get through the withdrawal, it'll be fine. See? You're more emotionally expressive now. Much better than before, right? You should go embrace life, not cling to shadows from the past. He shook his head. You're not a shadow. I didn't bother further with this tangled-up kid. Sensing a gaze, I looked up, meeting the eyes of the slender woman standing at the club entrance. I gave a faint smile, turned, and swung my leg over my moped. Behind me, Yi's gentle voice called out, Anayan, Ayun, everyone is waiting for you inside. She very properly ignored me. After all, what woman would like someone who looks 90% like her, but has a completely different aura? Especially when that woman is her lover's ex-girlfriend. I waved to Fang Yanian without looking back. I'm off. See you. If you mess around with orders again, I won't take you out of the blacklist, you know? I left with flair. But truthfully, it wasn't just him who was struggling to adjust. When Li Xiaoshan heard my sighing, she was puzzled. Why did you leave anyway? It seemed the Fang family was quite happy with you. Couldn't you just, cement the relationship? I smirked. They were happy with me as a substitute lover, not with the substitute replacing the original. Actually, I suspect if He Yi hadn't coincidentally returned, they would have found a way to make me leave soon anyway. Eh? Why? Because Anayan and I became too close. I lowered my head, rubbing my fingers, which still faintly held the memory of the feel of Fang Yannian's hair. Families like theirs won't allow a commoner to rise above her station. Moreover, I had another rather wild suspicion. It was just so outlandish that I kept doubting myself, thinking I was over-imagining things. I drank with Li Xiaoshan until late, finally staggering back to my flat drunk. I nearly tripped over my own shoes in the entryway, stumbling and bracing myself against the shoe cabinet. Instinctively I called out, "Anayan, come help me." No response came for a long moment, before I sluggishly remembered I had moved out. Snorting at myself, I wobbled unevenly into the living room, only to trip over something else and pitch straight towards the floor. Instead, I crashed into a warm body, and a low grunt sounded above my head. Startled, my drunkenness evaporated in an instant. I instinctively moved to put him in a headlock, but my wrist was caught, and a soft kiss landed in my palm. The person holding me murmured softly, "Sister, Su Lili." I immediately relaxed, instinctively reaching up to wrap my arms around his neck, complaining, "Why didn't you make a sound or turn on the lights? You scared me." My voice cut off abruptly. Unlike during the day, in the pitch darkness, Fang Yannian's kiss wasn't filled with reckless anger, but brimmed with tenderness and lingering affection. There was no trace of lust, just a simple kiss. I could read his longing and allowed myself to sink into that feeling briefly, losing control for a moment. After a short while, I slowly raised my hands and firmly pushed him away. Fang Yannian's voice held a hint of grievance. "There were so many people during the day, I held back then." "Why not here either?" I said flatly. "It's not the time or place that's wrong. It's the person." "Are you blind? Can't you tell whether I like He Yi or you?" I laughed. "I really can't tell. After all, for 3 years I didn't even know you actually knew my name was Su Lili." Fang Yannian fell silent, seeming somewhat chastened. I steadied myself using his shoulder and easily shook him off. "All right, tell me. How did you find this place?" Zhou Yun helped me look it up. I sighed. "I've said all I need to say. If you're going to pretend not to understand, there's nothing I can do." "Fang Yannian, I don't know what scheme you're brewing, but until you sort it out, don't cause trouble for me." He was silent for a long time, then just said, "Don't call me that." I had never called him by his full name before, because He Yi always called him Anayan. But I'm not He Yi. I'm Su Lili. "You should go." Fang Yannian didn't move. I frowned, pushing him towards the door, but he countered by wrapping his arm around my waist. He pulled me close abruptly. In the gradually clearing moonlight, his eyes held a familiar mix of gloom and madness. Is he having another episode? I thought the white moonlight cured him. I didn't dare make any sudden moves, afraid of triggering him. So, unimpeded, he tumbled us both onto the sofa, his tone almost sinister. "Su Lili, why is it that ever since He Yi came back, it's either you leaving or you telling me to leave? Do you know what I did that night, after you drank that one toast with us and left?" He was talking about the night I ran away. My body tensed slightly, but I kept my tone natural. "What could you have done?" He chuckled lowly. "I looked at her in bed, thinking of you. I was momentarily speechless. There was really no need for that level of detail. It was impressive that He Yi could call him Anayan with a straight face after being tied up all night. Her mental fortitude is truly something else. 3 years ago you looked at me and called me Xiao Yi. 3 years later you look at He Yi and think of me. Fang Yannian, aren't you just a cad?" His voice trembled slightly. "Do you know why we broke up? Do you know why she was forced to go abroad? Do you really think it was just because my parents and Fang Yanmin didn't like her? Do you know why she can return alive now?" I was baffled. "Well, I obviously don't know any of that. Fang Yannian bit the flesh near my neck, almost like a punishment. Right, you don't know. So how can you call me a cad? Speechless, I reached up and patted the head of this big dog on top of me. Fine. It's my fault for not knowing anything. Is the young master appeased now? His response was another deep kiss. Lili, don't leave me. Otherwise I really will die. You know I was already ill to begin with, he mumbled indistinctly. I sighed inwardly, thinking that people with mental health issues really shouldn't be messed with. Once you're involved, it's hard to shake them off. Is that your threat this time? He was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was terribly hoarse. This time, if my mental state deteriorates again, Fang Yanmin probably won't ask you to come help me. He'll trick my parents into sending me to a sanatorium. Then he'll lock me up, like a dog. Not letting me die, but not letting me live. After a pause, he added, but if it comes to that, I will definitely kill myself. I was taken aback. For 3 years, no matter how I coaxed him, he never fully trusted me. But as soon as I leave, he comes clinging to me, wanting to bare his heart. Chi. Maybe men are just contrary like that. But his vague words seemed to confirm my earlier suspicions. Suddenly, my heart felt like it had been scratched by a dog's claw. The pain so sharp it tightened my breath. I leaned in and kissed his eyes, which were starting to cloud over with that familiar lifelessness. Be good. If you really don't want to talk about it yet, then don't. That night, I finally managed to coax Fang Yannian into going home. The next day, after finishing my deliveries, I returned to find him sitting on my living room sofa again, greeting me as naturally as if it were the past. I couldn't help but feel exasperated. Young master, is it appropriate for you to leave He alone at your place and come find me? Are you trying to make me the other woman? Fang Yannian frowned deeply, looking morose. I don't want to see her. Even if you don't want to see her, you allowed her into your home. You acknowledged your relationship. I said calmly. You say you're not a cad, then give me an explanation. Fang Yannian couldn't speak, so I kicked him out and forcibly confiscated the key he had copied. He initially refused to let go of the key, but I stood my ground, counting on him not hurting me. Fang Yannian was silent for a long time, then slowly curved his lips into a rather twisted smile. Sister really has grown tired of me and wants to dump me, hasn't she? I retorted, you're the one being evasive and trying to shift the blame onto me. Are you even a man? Fang Yannian went back home looking thoroughly gloomy. I sat on my bed, my mind a mess, pondering how a mental health patient had evolved into this Yandere-like character. For 3 years, Fang Yannian only ever cried and acted coquettishly with me. Where's my weak and pitiful lad? After delivering takeaways for a month, I'd had my fill of the life that Fang Yanmin had forcibly interrupted 3 years prior, so I quit. After all, I was a millionaire now. No need to brave the elements scraping for a living like before. Li Xiaoshan was overjoyed when she heard I'd quit, saying she'd treat me to a meal to celebrate me finally ditching the ugly yellow uniform. We ran into He Yi at a bar. Li Xiaoshan peered around sneakily. Even the esteemed white moonlight frequents this kind of place. I pulled her head back. Don't let her see us. She instantly bristled. Why are you hiding? You haven't done anything wrong. You were Fang Yannian's carer for 2 years, and after that you dated naturally. By any measure, she's the one who broke you up. The usurper. If she's not feeling guilty, why should you? I was baffled. I'm not feeling guilty. I just don't want to interact with her for the time being. Too late. What? Li Xiaoshan turned my head halfway, and I came face to face with the gentle-looking He Yi. She was wearing a fishtail dress, looking like a pure university student, completely out of place in the bar. Plenty of men were casting lecherous glances her way. She seemed completely unaware, just staring at me expressionlessly. This seemed to be the first time she had actually looked directly at me. It suddenly occurred to me. Did He Yi avoid looking at me because of my 3 years with Fang Yannian, or because of our similar faces? Good evening, Miss Su. Chi. Honestly, seeing a face 80% similar to your own is a bit like being in a horror film. Or perhaps we were long-lost sisters with different fathers and mothers. I calmly brushed off Li Xiaoshan's hand and amiably pointed to the seat beside us. Have a seat. She seemed taken aback by how I effortlessly took charge of the situation. Her expression momentarily blank. Oh. PFFT. Li Zhaotian couldn't hold it in. He Yi sat down, cleared her throat, and said softly, I didn't expect to run into you. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about Anayan. I nodded. Good timing. Since we've met, there's something I wanted to say as well. Her eyes flickered. I don't know what your relationship was these past 3 years, but now that I'm back, I hope you will refrain from contacting Anayan in the future. I thought for a moment. That might be possible. He frowned. You have conditions? Her expression was as if she was bracing for me to ask for a check. I twitched my mouth. First, tell me why you went abroad. I felt like going, so I went, she said calmly. What does that have to do with you? It has everything to do with me. I'm his ex-girlfriend, and you're his ex-ex-girlfriend. I don't quite understand why. Since you dumped him, you can so naturally demand I step aside now that you're back. He Yi's face began to darken. I ignored it and continued. Didn't you know he fell ill after you left? Didn't you know your presence is aggravating his condition now? He Yi's face turned completely cold. I don't know what you're talking about. I can recite He Yi's medical history by heart. Don't try to fool me. I narrowed my eyes, thinking this girl really had a few screws loose. Do you want Fang Yannian to die? He Yi shot to her feet, knocking over her drink. It spilled across the table, dripping onto the floor. That's none of your business. She was nearly breaking down, but still stubbornly clinging on. It is none of my business. But it is Fang Yannian's business. If you intend to harm him, I will make your life hell. I gave her a wicked smirk and crushed the glass she had been holding. He Yi's face turned pale. You're only relying on your resemblance to me. Otherwise, why would Anayan even glance your way? You stole my Anayan, Li Zhaotian interjected. Why couldn't it be that you look like Su Lili? Maybe you stole him from her. Impossible. He Yi had already lost her composure, shrieking. Fang Yannian must be mine. You can't. You shouldn't have developed feelings for him. He's mine. I almost felt sorry for her. Her mental state seemed even worse than Fang Yannian's. So, I tried to lighten the mood. We aren't long-lost sisters, are we? He Yi was stunned, not processing a shift in the conversation. Her eyes filled with confusion. Apparently not. Even if we were, I wouldn't acknowledge her. What use is a sister who's unhinged? He Yi left looking utterly distraught. I hadn't managed to extract any of the information I wanted, so my mood was foul too. Li Zhaotian studied me with a strange expression for a long time. Have you transferred your affections? Eh? Do you have a crush on your ex-boyfriend's ex-ex-girlfriend? She howled this so loudly that several nearby tables turned to look at us in surprise. I nearly rolled my eyes into the back of my head, pushing her head down to hide deeper in the booth. Shut up and drink your booze. She kept staring at me with wide, bright eyes as if I'd already gone off the rails. ... Nobody turns gay just because of a breakup. She seemed relieved, opening a new bottle while sighing dramatically. Honestly, I think you lost a bit unfairly. This white moonlight seems a bit dim. I thought back to He's behavior, lost in thought. She seemed very guilty. It seems the story of the white moonlight not being accepted, going abroad and nearly meeting disaster is probably 80% fabricated. Li Zhaotian's mouth fell open. Huh. Stage for Fang Yannian. The goals were probably 1, to force them apart, and 2, to force him to let go. Of course, there might be other things in between that I don't know about, obviously. The Fang family's methods failed. So in the end, they had to find me to clean up the mess. So now they're kicking down the ladder after crossing the river. I transferred 1,000 quid to Li Zhaotian, so she could keep drinking and flirting with guys, then left by myself. Fang Yannian's words the other day had left me with a lingering unease. But an aunt trying to shake a tree is meaningless, and I didn't know how to help him. So, I resorted to the most basic method first. Order him a late-night snack delivery, sending some warmth in the dead of night. Then I opened my WeChat contact list, scrolled down for a long time, and finally found a contact note named Swindler. Transfer 1,000. The other party has received the payment. Swindler. Boss. I'm here. Me. Help me check up on two people. Fang Yamin and He. Swindler. Bloody hell, those two. I wouldn't dare investigate them recklessly. Transfer 5,000. Swindler. Say no more. Say no more. Rest assured, boss, I'll dig up everything there is to know. Me. Focus mainly on the connection between them. Swindler. Roger that, boss. Wait for my news, boss. I put away my phone, deeply recognizing that having money really means you can do whatever you want. Being a wealthy woman is so enjoyable. After walking a stretch along the bar street, I received a call from Fang Yanian. His voice held not a trace of gloom, clearly carrying a pleased laugh. Sister, why did you suddenly order me a delivery? I also smiled, sending warmth. He chuckled lowly. The sound was slightly distorted over the phone, but still pleasant. Thank you. I like it. Home alone? I ran into He just now. Oh. I made her cry. Another laugh came from the other end, teasing its way along the phone line into my ear, making my scalp tingle. Did you enjoy scolding her? I thought about it carefully and answered honestly. Quite enjoyed it, actually. As long as you're happy. Rustling sounds came from his end, as if he was unwrapping the delivery. This is the bubble tea I ordered for you last time. It's very sweet. I liked it a lot, so I wanted you to try it too. I said softly. I specifically asked for less tea and more milk. You'll have very sweet dreams tonight. Fang Yanian said, if you're in the dream, it will definitely be sweet. I stopped walking and turned slightly. He seemed to sense something. Sister? What's wrong? I said slowly. It seems cursing people brings instant karma. GH. Haven't been in a fight for years, I'm a bit rusty. Fang Yanian's voice deepened. Lili, wait for me. I rotated my wrists and ankles. You can't fight. Don't come and cause trouble. Hurry up and call the police for me. After saying that, I hung up, turned around, and hooked a finger at the stalkers still pretending to be passers-by. Proactively provoke. Well, lads, working a job this late at night, I said with a smile. Who's the client? The stalkers surrounded me, looking somewhat confused. The leader looked surprised, scrutinized me for a moment, then said thoughtfully, quite cooperative. Come with us quietly, I said calmly. That might be possible. Answer me one question first. It was possible these guys didn't originally plan to kidnap me today, but I didn't want to be followed every day. Better to strike first, and test if this was He's doing at the same time. Theft, ask away. Doesn't mean we'll answer. Your boss should be a beautiful woman with the surname, He, right? The men glanced at each other but didn't answer. I shrugged. Right then. Shall we go? I really didn't understand why He was being so impulsive. From what Fang Yamin told me before, He was a top student from a prestigious university. Went abroad to study at an Ivy League. Logically, even if her EQ was low, her IQ should be high enough, right? If she acts now, even I don't need brains to know it's her. So impulsive. Did she go abroad for 3 years and become stupid? Forget it. She won't succeed anyway. Can't be bothered to figure out her thought process. As a cooperative hostage, I didn't need to be manhandled by these thugs. I walked supernaturally in the middle of the kidnappers, even managing to project the aura of the boss. After walking through several alleys, I suddenly stopped. What are you doing? Thug A poked me in the back. I said, you. Thug A was stunned. I seized the chance to turn around and execute a neat shoulder throw, stomped on Thug A's elbow joint, dodged Thug B's kick, and delivered a sharp kick to his nether regions. A and B collapsed, moaning in pain. I sighed. So rubbish. How could they not even beat a retired school bully? Thug C and D lunged at me together. I quickly grabbed A and B and threw them into C and D's arms respectively, then turned and ran back the way we came. What a joke. Even if I could win the fight, I shouldn't. What if I accidentally go beyond reasonable self-defense? How would I explain that to the police? As I neared the mouth of an alley, someone suddenly stepped out in front of me. I was about to dodge when I was pulled into their embrace, almost throwing them over by reflex. It's me. I withdrew my hands and looked up at Fang Yanian. He must have run all the way through the alleys. His breathing was ragged, a thin layer of sweat on his forehead, his dark eyes blazing so brightly it felt scalding, making my gaze waver. Him? Weren't you at home? How did you get here so fast? Sped here on my bike, he said expressionlessly. Probably lost all my points on my license. 3 bodyguards ran past him into the alley. A few cries of pain followed shortly after. Presumably, they had subdued all the thugs. I felt inexplicably guilty. You know I can fight. What was the rush? You could have just called the police for me. Fang Yanyan's eyes grew even darker at that. Being able to fight means you can take on multiple people. What if they had knives? What good is calling the police? By the time they arrive, you'd already be cold. The bodyguards escorted the thugs into a car. I said, small fry like this, catching them is useless. They don't know anything. I don't need to find out anything from them. Fang Yanyan looked at me deeply, his tone hardening. I just need to make them understand they're seeking death. Me. We live in a society governed by law. Don't mess around. A beating is enough. I initially insisted on handing these guys over to the police. Let them experience the influence of socialist rule of law. Fang Yanyan flatly refused. He'd probably only let them go after venting his anger. The world is wonderful. Fang Yanyan is irritable. Not good, not good. Sadly, I couldn't bring myself to lecture him. In the end, I could only watch as a bodyguard drove his bike away. How are you getting back? Walking. You take me. Having calmed down, he looked down at me with a smile again. I held his gaze for a moment, then slowly frowned, reached out to touch the stubble on his chin, and my face fell. If I take you from here to your place, it'll be dawn. Also, be honest, how many days have you not slept? How much have you eaten these past few days? 3 years ago, when I first met Fang Yanyan, his sleep schedule was chaotic. He struggled to fall asleep at night, only managing a shallow sleep near dawn, and would wake up soon after. Coupled with a poor appetite, eating and then vomiting, and constantly trying to harm himself, he had tortured himself to the point of being skin and bones. It took so much effort to restore his spirit, and now after just a month apart, he looked half dead again. I was incredulous. The lad I raised for 3 years ends up like this after just 1 month with the white moonlight. Is the white moonlight actually poisonous? He blinked, a mix of guilt and grievance appearing on his face. Sister wasn't there. I couldn't sleep or eat properly. I stayed silent. He continued to whine softly. You're the only cure for me. He placed his hands on my shoulders, rubbing gently and ambiguously. Beneath the seemingly grievous moisture in his eyes lay a restrained love and desire. He's too close. I took a deep breath, pushed his approaching face away, narrowly escaping the atmosphere, my legs feeling a bit weak. Then, utterly killing the mood, I reached out a hand and pinched his mouth shut. Until you sort out your issues. No messing around with me in a male-female relationship, understand? Finally, I hailed a taxi to send Fang Yanyan home. Before he left, still a bit worried, I reminded him. If you can't sleep, call me. If you can't eat, I'll order takeout for you. If you keep skipping meals and sleep, you'll be dead before you even solve this problem. His eyes lit up. Then sis, wouldn't you feel guilty? To spare you from future guilt, I could reluctantly stay at your place. I said coldly, don't even think about it. After seeing him off, I sent Li Xiaoshan a message to check on her safety. Li Xiaoshan, I'm perfectly fine. There are plenty of people willing to be my protectors. Me. Oh, right. As the prized flower of the former school bully, Li Xiaoshan has always sailed through life smoothly. That night, just before bed, Fang Yanyan indeed video-called me. I answered to see him leaning against the headboard with a smile, his hair slightly damp and softly falling over his forehead, making him look unexpectedly docile. However, the collar of his pajamas had been deliberately pulled down, revealing a pale collarbone, a move full of intention. My gaze subtly swept over it, and I couldn't help clearing my throat. What are you doing? Pull your pajama collar up properly. Be careful not to catch a cold. The air conditioning is just right. I won't catch a cold. He stretched lazily with one arm, his posture very much resembling a big cat. My fingers twitched and I suddenly felt the urge to kiss his soft hair, his handsome face, and, "Didn't you say to call you if I couldn't sleep?" The young man's voice was clear and transparent, with a slight huskiness as if moistened by moisture, incredibly alluring. I touched my warming earlobe and asked softly, "What about he?" He frowned, clearly unhappy to hear that name. "How would I know? It's not like she has nowhere to stay. Why does she keep running over here every day? Is she tired of living?" After grumbling irritably, he blinked at me. "Why bring her up at a time like this? It ruins the mood." How impressive. Former lovers turning into bitter enemies. The substitute mistress stepping into the spotlight. Late-night intimate chats to soothe the lonely heart of the second young master Fang. This is exactly why I shouldn't have softened and allowed him to contact me. This guy could call me 800 times a day, sticking to me like glue. Clearly, the nature of our relationship is already too messy to explain. I rubbed my forehead, swallowing back the 10,000-word melodramatic script in my mind. Get under the covers, turn off the lights and go to sleep. Fang Yannian sighed regretfully, lying back down on the bed. With a soft sound, the screen darkened, and I could see the faint glow of an orange bedside lamp. He whispered, "In the past, you used to sleep holding me." The darkness made it even easier for wild thoughts to surface. I took a deep breath. I said we can't mess with male-female relationships. I've sent people to keep an eye on He Yi and Fang Yamian. For now, don't pay them any attention. Just maintain contact with your brother's company. You don't have to tell me that. He sounded a bit displeased. Can't we talk about something less nauseating before bed? I paused. How about I tell you a story? He happily agreed. So, I opened The Little Prince and read until I fell asleep myself. When I woke up the next day, my phone had already shut down from a dead battery. After plugging it into charge and turning it on, I saw Fang Yanian's last message was from 3 a.m. Roughly estimating, it was after my phone died and the video call disconnected. He said, "Good night, little Rose." I smiled and replied, "How did you sleep, little prince?" After breakfast, Fang Yanian called directly. "Thanks to you, sis. I slept a bit better than the night before." "What about breakfast?" I drank a glass of milk. I was satisfied. "Not bad, there's still room for improvement." Fang Yanian chuckled softly, lowering his voice with a hint of temptation. Then, "Shouldn't you reward me? He really knows how to push his luck. What can I do?" "I'll just indulge him." I smiled too. "What do you want now?" "Let me be clear, no messing with male-female relationships. I found the psychologist who treated me back then. I'm going to retrieve my records from that time. Do you want to come?" My heart stirred slightly, sensing that Fang Yanian was actively opening the door to his heart for me. He specifically mentioned the records. He must be planning to show them to me. I finally waited for this day. In high spirits, I said, "Sure, let's go together." I never imagined what it would be like to travel with Fang Yanian. But this trip was originally for business. It was Fang Yanian who stubbornly turned it into a vacation. Even after getting off the plane, he was still looking up travel guides. I glanced over and saw the words "must-visit spots for couples," and my lips twitched. "What's in those records?" Fang Yanian didn't look up. "Everything." I was puzzled. "Everything?" He raised his head to look at me, smiling innocently. "I learned counter-hypnosis from him, so there are many things only that doctor knows." My heart instantly softened into a puddle, and I reached out to stroke his hair. He leaned in, pressing the tip of his nose against mine. His eyes still held a smile, but his tone was slightly cold. "If you learn everything about my past and still choose to leave me, I'll break your legs and lock you in a room where you can't go anywhere." I wasn't scared at all. I pinched his nose and said seriously, "Freedom, equality, justice, rule of law." He lowered his head and quickly nipped my lips, then pulled away at lightning speed. I said no messing with male-female relationships. "You might not, but I will. I'll harass you unilaterally." Well, that's one way to put it. Typical of you. The psychologist's surname was Zhao. Apparently, he changed careers after Fang Yanian was transferred to a second doctor, and now works as a university teacher. Coincidentally, the university where he teaches is one of the city's landmark attractions, so we headed there straight from the airport. It was still class time when we arrived, so there were few people on the campus paths. Fang Yannian looked around and quietly hooked his finger with mine. Just as I was about to pull my hand back, he intertwined our fingers and held on tightly. He looked down at me, a fresh spark of interest on his face. Look at us. Don't we seem like an ordinary university couple? Seeing such a soft expression on him was rare, and my heart melted. I hesitated, and didn't pull my hand back. Still, I had to awkwardly state my stance. We agreed not to mess with male-female relationships. Fang Yannian wasn't upset by my refusal. He shook our joined hands triumphantly. I also said I'd be the one messing with you. I'm taking the initiative. After a pause, he lowered his voice again. No one here will look at us with ulterior motives. I want to be a little reckless. Lili, you have to spoil me. I laughed, sweetness filling my heart from his coquettishness. I tightened my grip on his hand. All right, I'll spoil you. Hand in hand, we made our way to the classroom where the psychologist was teaching and slipped in through the back door. A small group of people glanced our way, which I initially ignored, but soon I noticed the stares multiplying. It then dawned on me that all those girls were looking at Fang Yannian. Fang Yannian's features are quite handsome, defined brow bones, a straight nose bridge, and lips that are perfectly full, very kissable. Though he still looked a bit pale, his relaxed demeanor made him seem more lively. If it weren't for this man-made illness, he could have spent 4 glorious years in university, basking in the admiration of boys and girls, instead of struggling just to live with dignity. I leaned closer and whispered to him. They're all looking at you. Fang Yannian also leaned in and whispered. But I'm looking at you. My face warmed, and for a moment I was defenseless against his smooth-talking flirtation. I quickly put some distance between us. Perhaps the environment gave me the illusion that I was actually in a campus romance, which explained why my heart was racing so fiercely. But he stubbornly closed the distance again, burying his face in my shoulder, his breath warming my neck. Now they can't see me, I said. Oh. Curling my fingers restlessly and focused my attention on Dr. Zhao, who was lecturing at the front, ignoring him. When class ended, we followed the stream of students to the front of the classroom and waited patiently until all the students had finished asking questions and left before approaching Dr. Zhao. He seemed a bit confused at first, but when his eyes landed on Fang Yannian behind me, he suddenly understood. Oh, it's you. Long time no see. You look much better. Fang Yannian rarely showed such a warm smile to outsiders. Yes, she's helped me a lot. He shook our still-joined hands and the doctor smiled and nodded. A positive, beautiful relationship really can help you overcome depression. The doctor hadn't eaten yet and invited us to join him. I happily agreed, pulling a somewhat reluctant Fang Yannian along behind the doctor. It was supposed to be a candlelit lunch. Fang Yannian dragged his feet, muttering under his breath. I couldn't help laughing and reached out with my other hand to soothingly scratch his chin. All right. How about a candlelit dinner tonight then? He immediately brightened, leaning in to quickly kiss my cheek, as innocent as a real male university student. Dr. Zhao took us to the less crowded faculty cafeteria and insisted on paying with his staff card. Fang Yannian accepted without hesitation. The illustrious second young master Fang, shamelessly mooching off someone. Over the meal, Dr. Zhao sighed with emotion. 3 years ago, I had no hope of curing you and once thought you would truly commit suicide. It seems I really underestimated the power of love. Maybe I shouldn't have changed careers. I was a bit curious at this. What made you change careers? Because I encountered several patients I felt powerless to help. I began to have strong doubts about my own abilities, so I decided to focus solely on academia to improve myself, he replied frankly. Mr. Fang was my last patient. I'm very sorry I couldn't help him. Fang Yannian didn't seem surprised by this. Noticing my glance, he said quietly to me. He told me he was planning this before he left. I understood, thinking that while Fang Yannian had been in despair back then, Di Zhou, who couldn't cure him, must have been equally despairing. Although, to be a bit conspiratorially minded, one couldn't rule out Fang Yannian's shadow being behind Dr. Zhao's career change. As we were in a public place, we didn't mention the purpose of our visit. I casually asked for some recommended tourist spots in the city. Dr. Zhao said with a smile, for a couple you could visit Shiwan Mountain. There's a blue lotus lake there with quite nice scenery, and a rather moving legend. I nodded non-committally, having no interest in places that were clearly just gimmicky tourist traps. Fang Yannian, however, perked up. He asked in detail about Shiwan Mountain, his dark eyes sparkling. After a moment's thought, I realized he had been swayed by the words for a couple. TCH. Oh, well. He did act coquettishly and asked me to spoil him, so I might as well indulge him. After the meal, we went to Dr. Zhao's office. He made us 2 cups of tea and asked gently, "I assume this visit is related to Mr. Fang's illness?" I nodded. "We wanted to ask if you still have the treatment records from back then." Seeing his hesitant expression, I added, "You understand the cause of his illness very well. To help him completely move on from those matters, we really need those records." Dr. Zhao sighed. "I see. It's just that, in principle, no one besides myself and Mr. Fang should know the contents of these records, which is why I hesitated. But if they can be useful, then please take them. Keeping them here serves no purpose anyway." A look of guilt appeared on his face. Fang Yannian kept his head lowered without reacting, so I could only stammer a bit awkwardly. "That's not true. You were probably the Dr. Annian trusted the most. He doesn't blame you." The doctor shook his head and smiled, as if letting go. "Never mind, I've changed careers now. I keep all my patients' records locked in a safe deposit box at the bank. I have no classes this afternoon. You're welcome to wait here for me to fetch them, or you can come with me." I looked inquiringly at Fang Yannian. Even though this was his affair, he wore an expression of complete indifference, his face clearly saying, "Whatever you decide." I understood that he still felt somewhat resistant to me knowing everything, but I wasn't disappointed, only felt pity for him. I turned back to Dr. Zhao. "We'll wait for you on campus. Thank you for your trouble." Fang Yannian's mood had actually been quite good ever since we entered this university. Clearly he was very taken with the idea of pretending to be a campus couple. I followed his lead, holding his hand as we wandered aimlessly around the campus. I even found a few popular photo spots based on an online guide. I made Fang Yannian sit in front of the Venus statue, stretching out his hand to pose rather goofily. He deliberately kept a straight face, but the happiness in his eyes was unmistakable. I pressed the shutter, satisfied, admired the photo of the young man, then went over and sat down next to him. "Come on, let's take a selfie." This was something I would usually have scorned. Back in university, Li Zhouocean loved using me as her model, and each time I would make her treat me to a meal as compensation. But taking photos with Fang Yannian felt natural and joyful, making the corners of my mouth lift slightly the whole time. A moment before I pressed the shutter, Fang Yannian quickly leaned in and gave me a light kiss on the cheek. I touched the spot on my cheek where he had kissed me. It seemed to retain a slight warmth. A touch of sweetness rose in my heart. This kind of behavior, holding hands, strolling around outside, wasting time together, was something we had never done in the past 3 years. We had always stayed within the confines of that small flat. Occasionally, with Fang Yanmin's permission, we could see a few friends who visited, or go downstairs for a walk within the estate. No wonder Fang Yannian had been so keen on researching guides beforehand. I couldn't help but lean over and brush my lips against his soft ones. Fang Yannian's eyes lit up, and he reached out to cut the back of my head, intending to deepen the kiss. The untimely sound of a WeChat call rang out. Suppressing a laugh, I pushed him away and answered the call. "Miss Su, I've got the items. I'll wait for you at the main gate." Taking the file folder from Dr. Zhao, I noticed Fang Yannian staring fixedly at it. I shoved the folder into his hands and turned to bid a polite farewell to Dr. Zhao. The doctor said cheerfully, "I wish you a lifelong harmonious union, and a precious child soon." I blinked, momentarily unsure how to respond. Fang Yannian, who had been looking emotional just a second ago, lifted his head and smiled. "We will." After leaving the university, Fang Yannian handed the file folder to me. I raised an eyebrow at him. "You're really willing to let me see it?" The conflict in his eyes hadn't fully faded, and his low spirits were palpable. He remained silent, not answering me. We walked hand in hand for 2 blocks before he slowly spoke. "Do you know who the last person was who learned about these things?" That was hardly difficult to guess. "It was He Yi, wasn't it?" Fang Yannian stopped walking. His lowered eyelashes cast heavy shadows under his eyes, his expression one of profound disgust. "Before she found out, She said all the right things too, he said with a scornful laugh, reaching out to brush aside a stray strand of hair by my temple. Later, she said I was dirty, and threw me away like rubbish. She even colluded with scum like Fang Yanmin. Who does she think she is? Fang Yanmin was just using her. After he was done, he not only discarded her but tried to destroy her as well. It's a pity he was overconfident and slipped up this time, actually letting her come back alive. I was stunned, seeing the self-loathing etched between his brows, and the way he avoided my gaze when our eyes met. Clearly afraid I would react like he. My heart ached for him. I reached out and affectionately pinched his lips, shaping them into a flat duck's bill, and said with a smile, "Your sister Lili grew up in a shantytown. I've seen plenty of dirty dealings. The dramas of your wealthy families hardly compare." Fang Yannian's lower face was squished out of shape by my pinching, but light returned to his eyes, only to dim again quickly. He gently removed my hand and began playing with my fingers, his mood subdued. "So Lili, I don't dare to gamble," he said quietly. "I'm afraid I might lose my mind and do something you could never forgive. Like breaking my legs and locking me up," I interrupted, leaving aside whether you could even beat me in a fight. "If I ever really left you, it would only be because you genuinely got back together with He, not because of some bloody past. You're a grown man, don't be so wishy-washy." He stared straight at me for a long time, as if trying to discern whether I meant what I said, until a faint shutter sound from nearby made him turn his head. A girl holding a camera immediately looked embarrassed. She stepped forward and apologized. "I'm so sorry. The atmosphere between you two was just too perfect, like something out of an idol drama. I couldn't help myself. I wasn't angry, just curious. Can we see the photo?" "Of course." The photographer handed over the camera, adding in a small voice, "I only took one. You two are like the perfect golden couple, so well matched. I even want to take your wedding photos." "Oh, if you've already taken them, forget I said that." I looked at the photo. The screen was small, but the two people in it were gazing at each other, hands clasped, their eyes overflowing with love for one another. I was smiling broadly, while Fang Yannian looked solemn. Against the backdrop of the shopfront designed in a vintage Hong Kong style, it almost looked like, "You two look like you've just got engaged. So sweet." The blunt photographer voiced the very thought in my heart. I looked up at Fang Yannian. The uncertainty he'd felt moments ago seemed to have vanished instantly. He examined the photo with an almost astonished gaze. After a long while, he finally lifted his head and met my eyes. A smile played on his lips, his eyes filled with drowning tenderness. "I've only just realized how much you love me, Gigi." The photographer covered her mouth, letting out a small gasp. "It's actually an older woman and younger man relationship. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead." I had a vague sense that the lump of unease in Fang Yannian's heart seemed to have been erased by this photo. I felt immensely grateful to this photographer at that moment. Her appearance was so timely, just like the supporting character who helps the main couple in an idol drama. I turned to her with a smile. "Let's exchange WeChat details. You can send me this photo later. When we get married, we'll definitely hire you to take our wedding photos." The excited photographer took back her camera, added me on WeChat, and kept waving enthusiastically as she left. "Get married soon." Fang Yannian wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, pulling me closer against him, his mood excellent. "Let's go. We'll go to Shiwan Mountain and have a candlelit dinner tonight. What about the treatment records? We'll drop them at the hotel first. We can look at them together when we get back tonight." "All right." The contents of the file aligned with my suspicions, yet were somewhat more alarming than I had imagined. Fang Yannian was the illegitimate son of the Fang family. His biological mother died during childbirth, so he was taken in by the Fang family from a young age. His Fang family parents were indifferent towards him, fulfilling their duties and obligations in his upbringing adequately. But Fang Yanmin had always been exceptionally attentive towards this younger brother. This concern evolved into an overprotective, constant presence, and familial affection bloated into a distorted possessiveness. Fang Yanmin was like a shadow, suffocating Fang Yannian, making it hard for him to breathe. So, Yannian wanted to escape his elder brother's control. Consequently, Fang Yanmin lost his rationality and tortured Fang Yannian physically. For Fang Yannian, these were unspeakable sharmas and agonies. No wonder he was so hesitant about telling me. Recalling my impression of Fang Yanmin, I found it almost unbelievable. Do perverts always excel at putting on a respectable front? After reading the file, I didn't comment much on it. It was just that when Fang Yannian, anxious yet insistent, came to hold me that night, I didn't struggle. Instead, I yielded, losing ourselves in a wanton intimacy. I indulged in several days of reckless abandon with Fang Yannian to soothe his unstable emotional state. The only pity was that all the itineraries I prepared were wasted. I really had quite fancied going out with him. On the final evening, while he was in the shower, I booked the flight tickets and then absent-mindedly clicked on a new email notification that popped up on my phone. More unoriginal threats and intimidation. These emails hadn't stopped since the day Yannian and I set off for this city together. My gaze fell on the few photos at the bottom of the email. Surveillance shots of Yannian and me from the moment we met at the airport onwards. The sender made no attempt to hide their voyeurism. The vaguely menacing tone was aggressive. I took a screenshot, opened the WeChat chat with Fang Yanmin, and sent the picture. One could only say Fang Yannian was still rather naive. He thought that by moving to a different city, he'd escape prying eyes. Hence his coaxing and wheedling for us to be inseparable here. But in reality, Fang Yanmin, who had taken over the company long ago, was far more formidable than he imagined. So what? Lili has never been one to back down from a challenge. Fang Yanmin's response to my provocation was to call me. His voice was unreadable. Miss Su, what is the meaning of this? Are you asking me to help you find out who sent the email? I smiled slightly. The purpose of mine and Anayan's trip, President Fang must be perfectly clear about. He remained silent, an intimidating aura spreading from the other end of the line. A mayfly trying to shake a mighty tree overestimating its own strength. He finally sneered. My dear brother always has a rebellious phase every now and then, and there's always a woman willing to indulge his nonsense. He laid his cards on the table, not bothering to conceal his contempt for the both of us. I said, surprised. President Fang, don't you think you might have a problem? I think you should have Dr. Chen run a check on you as well. Fang Yanmin didn't respond to that, merely stating coldly, you should remember my initial purpose in hiring you. To replace He Yi in accompanying my brother. We all thought He Yi was dead back then. Tell me, why did she die? You were merely He Yi's replacement. Do you think you'll be more fortunate than her? After hanging up, I stared blankly at the pitch-black sky, lost in thought, until someone pressed against me from behind. I could feel Fang Yannian's warm chest tightly against my back through my thin shirt. The heavy thuds of his heartbeat, one after another, transmitted through my ribs to my own heart, gradually synchronizing. My hand trembled. I turned around, stood on my toes, and actively met his lips. The temperature of his body gradually rose, his arms around me burning like branding irons. The early autumn evening breeze, carrying a hint of chill, crept under my clothes, followed by a pair of warm, slender hands. I regained my composure, thinking that there might be a pair of eyes peeping into this room from some corner, thinking of how Fang Yanmin tortured Yannian when he lost his mind. I pushed Fang Yannian away and sighed. All right, enough playing. We're going back tomorrow. Get your mind focused on how to deal with Fang Yanmin. He scowled, his face full of disgust. That name makes me sick. I sneered. Don't worry. I'll have someone mess him up first. Let him have a taste of his own medicine. Fang Yannian's eyes were complex. After a long moment, he caught my hand, slowly brought it to his mouth, and with a devout attitude, kissed the back of my hand. Lili, thank goodness it's you. I nodded smugly. Of course. Thankfully you met me. But then I suddenly remembered something. I narrowed my eyes at him. By the way, since you stopped liking He Yi long ago, why did you keep mistaking me for her these past 3 years, always calling me by her name? Fang Yannian immediately looked guilty. Back then, I thought you were someone Fang Yanmin sent to monitor me ... Coupled with my illness, subconsciously I didn't dare trust you too much ... I was furious. 3 years together day and night, 1 year sharing a bed. And you say you didn't trust me? You slept with me without trusting me. Did you take me for a prostitute? He quickly raised his hand to swear. No. After we confirmed the relationship, my feelings for you were genuine. I just never found the right opportunity to explain. So I let the mistake continue. Let the mistake continue. What if Yi hadn't come back? What if she had really stayed dead? Were you planning to let it go on forever? Call me Zhao Yi for the rest of your life? I wasn't fooled in the slightest, pressing him step by step, watching him closely, probably unaccustomed to seeing me so emotionally exposed and merciless. Fang Yannian panicked. He tried to grab my hand, but I avoided it. A faint redness tinged the rims of his eyes. I originally planned to use these 3 years to lull Fang Yanmin into a false sense of security, then slowly gather evidence against him. I was going to explain everything to you once it was settled. I never planned to deceive you forever. Lili, you can't doubt me. Ha! To devise such a thorough plan even while ill. You truly are second young Master Fang. Driven to desperation by my pressure, he forcefully wrapped his arms around my waist and half coerced me into the bedroom. Feeling the slight tremble in his body, I sighed inwardly, hooked my arms around his neck, and soothingly pinched the nape of his neck. All right. I was deliberately picking a fight with you just now. For show, for someone else's benefit. I know you won't let me down. I trust you. He pressed his lips together, a storm gathering in his eyes. Before I realized what was wrong, a torrent of kisses rained down. As my consciousness drowned in pleasure, I vaguely thought, with all this commotion so late at night, hopefully we wouldn't miss our flight tomorrow. We did, of course, catch the flight. To perfectly create the illusion of our quarrel, for Fang Yanmin, Fang Yannian and I returned separately. Our seats on the plane weren't together. We didn't acknowledge each other disembarking, and went our separate ways. Messages kept popping up on my phone. Fang Yannian texting me, complaining that I hadn't even glanced at him. Worried about phone surveillance, he'd specifically bought a new phone before returning, with only my number saved. I was ruthless in my response. Focus on the task. Handle the situation first, then we can deal with the romantic relationship. My back still ached. That bloke, despite being ill for 3 years, hadn't slacked on his workouts. Last night he'd practically wrecked me. After a day's rest, I received the final investigation results from the private detective. So far, he'd only ascertained that Yi and Fang Yanmin had a clandestine relationship. Yi would go to one of Fang Yanmin's properties every few days and stay the night before leaving. Moreover, this relationship existed before Yi went abroad. The private detective reasonably speculated that Fang Yanmin probably visited Yi during his trips to the US over the past 3 years as well. I had originally wanted to see if I could uncover evidence of Fang Yanmin hiring a hitman 3 years ago, but that crossed international borders, and the private detective was powerless to investigate that far. It seemed my side could only play a supporting role. The main offensive would have to come from Fang Yannian himself. Just thinking about Fang Yanmin's intentions towards him made me worried. Fortunately, Fang Yannian wasn't one to stand there and take abuse, and Fang Yanmin didn't dare go too far. In fact, they hadn't even met face-to-face in these 3 years. And that was something I had inadvertently brought about. Seeing that Yannian had unresolved issues, I advised Yanmin to appear less to avoid aggravating Yannian's condition. His expression had been terrible back then. I thought he was just worried about his brother's illness. Now, considering it, he was probably furious that his brother was using the illness to distance himself. Fang Yannian confessed to me that he had intentionally given himself psychological suggestions back then, worsening his condition, to completely break free from Fang Yanmin's control. 3 years. Just right. I hoped we'd see the clouds part and the moon shine bright in the end. With nothing better to do, and not wanting to spend my days fretting, I went to attend the opening ceremony and ribbon cutting for Li Xiaoshen's studio. She had resigned from her previous company, started her own studio, and taken more than half of her former clients with her. The studio was located in a 4-story villa in the suburbs, complete with a garden. The decor was Rococo style, luxurious and elegant. She'd probably invested all her savings into it. Many old clients came to support Li Xiaoshen at the ceremony. Watching her smiling and socializing amidst the crowd from a distance, I couldn't help but smile too. Seeing her as the center of attention, just like in the old days, I felt profoundly grateful that I hadn't forced her to deliver takeaways with me back then. The guests followed her assistant into the studio to look around and place orders. Li Xiaoshen came over to me. "What are your plans? Just idle your life away now?" A few million will be gone after buying a flat. Don't get too carried away. I smiled. Don't worry. I need to handle some matters during this period. Once it's settled, I'll figure out how to make money. Li Zhaoxin quickly said. Keep the benefits within the family. Invest in me. I'll definitely make you money. I chuckled. You've blown all your money on the renovation, haven't you? Now you're coming to me for funds? Fine. Show me your studio's development plan. Our studio will definitely be prosperous and bustling, with customers flocking in. I guarantee your money will multiply. She grabbed my arm and shook it. Invest, please invest. Before I could answer, her phone rang. She had to let go of my arm to answer. After listening for a moment, a surprised expression appeared on her face. Seeing she was about to head out after hanging up, I felt inexplicably uneasy and asked, What's wrong? She shrugged. Security said one of my guests was in too much of a hurry entering the estate and almost hit someone. They want me to go sort it out. You still have clients who haven't arrived? She nodded. My influence isn't that great. Quite a few people received invitations but didn't confirm if they were coming. Regardless, the customer is king. I should go see. Keep an eye on things here for me. I agreed. But half an hour passed and she still hadn't returned. Her phone went unanswered. Even if the villa estate was large and it took time to get back, she shouldn't be ignoring her phone. My sense of foreboding grew stronger. I got the security booth's number from her assistant. Calling them, I learned that Miss Li had left my car with that guest 20 minutes ago. The security guard even remarked, puzzled, Wasn't that Miss Li's boyfriend here to reconcile? They argued a bit, then left all lovey-dovey together. What bloody boyfriend? Li Zhaoxin, with her artistic temperament, had impossibly high standards and had been single since birth. Besides, the ribbon cutting wasn't even over, and she wasn't the type to mix personal and professional matters, fussing with a client. Something was definitely wrong. Li Zhaoxin had most likely been kidnapped, and my gut told me it was aimed at me. I decided immediately, instructing the assistant to proceed with the ceremony as planned, while I went to the security booth to check the CCTV. The guard was surprised when I explained my purpose. Kidnapping someone from a villa estate? Are traffickers that brazen these days? Muttering to himself, he pulled up the footage. The man kept his back to the camera the entire time. His face wasn't visible. You could only see Li Zhaoxin coming over, saying a few words, then seeming to want to leave. But he pulled her back, and she stumbled against him. They seemed to argue for a moment. The man reached his hand towards her face, did something, and she went limp, collapsing into his arms, allowing him to lead her into the car. I pressed my lips together. That man used some kind of drug. Half an hour. Given the traffic conditions now, they were probably already on the motorway. The guard was nervous and apologetic. Sorry about that, we didn't realize. The man even explained he was taking her out for a meal to apologize. We thought it was a lover's tiff. I waved it off. It's fine. Please cooperate with the police investigation later. I noted down the car's license plate number and called the police immediately. Judging by his build, this man was somewhat smaller and thinner than average. I wondered if it was someone Fang Yanmin had hired, or perhaps he Yi. The police acted swiftly. They discovered the car used to kidnap Li Zhaoxin had false license plates. The real owner was a second-hand car rental dealer, who was unaware his vehicle had been stolen. The car was found in a light industrial area 2 kilometers from the villa estate. The industrial area was being prepared for relocation and upgrade. Half the CCTV cameras had been removed. The spot where the kidnappers changed cars happened to be a blind spot, so it was unclear which vehicle they switched to. The police identified all vehicles entering and leaving the entire industrial area after this car drove in, and was systematically checking each one. After giving my statement, I waited for an hour. Seeing they were still seriously investigating and discussing, I grew restless. For someone like me with no parents, Li Zhaoxin wasn't just a friend. She was family. I had always protected her fiercely since we were young, but this time my own stubbornness had implicated her. I could barely resist the urge to confront Fang Yanmin directly, but considering the consequences of alerting or angering him, I suppressed the impulse. Fang Yanmin still didn't know about Li Zhaoxin. I just casually asked him how the plan was progressing. He replied, "Found some leads on key evidence. The kind that could bankrupt him and land him in jail. I was a bit worried. Did you alert him? He replied confidently. Impossible. If he'd noticed, he would have come for me already. Thinking about it, he was right. If Fang Yanmin had detected Yannian's movements, the ones kidnapped should be Yannian and me, not Li Zhaoshan. Kidnapping Li Zhaoshan was meant to warn or punish me. And the only thing I'd done recently that might have stirred Fang Yanmin was uncovering his affair with He Yi. But Fang Yanmin wouldn't care about something so trivial. So then, was it He Yi after all? Did she have me followed last time, realized I could fight, and therefore targeted someone close to me? I thought even if He Yi wasn't the sharpest, she wouldn't be stupid enough to expose herself. Yet, the timing of both her actions was so. After pondering for a while, I shared my suspicions with the police. I omitted the backstory, only vaguely mentioning the love-hate entanglement between the three of us. The officers, energized after this juicy tidbit, went to check He Yi's travel records with renewed vigor. I also sent a message to the private detective. After discovering Fang Yanmin and He Yi's relationship, I hadn't called off the surveillance. Just in case, I'd kept them watching. The detective replied quickly. He Yi hasn't left her home since returning last night. I countered. Are you sure she's been at home the whole time? The detective immediately sensed something was wrong. 10 minutes later, he sent me a CCTV screenshot, showing a thin man in a cap leaving He Yi's residence. The private detective was a step ahead of the police. This person was dressed identically to the one who took Li Zhaoshan. It was He Yi herself. To commit the crime, she disguised herself as a man. One had to admit in this regard, she possessed a modicum of intelligence. So, Li Zhaoshan must have recognized He Yi, or He Yi revealed her identity, which made Li Zhaoshan lower her guard. Not long after, I received a call. It was from an internet number, unknown location. I signaled to one of the officers. He understood, gestured for me to sit beside him, and quickly started setting up equipment to trace the call's origin. I answered. It was Li Zhaojun's voice. Su Lili, the one who kidnapped me, is Mem PH. She was cut off before finishing. I faintly heard the sound of a slap, and Li Zhaoshan crying out in pain. The anger I'd suppressed for so long instantly ignited. Show some bloody respect, I said icily. Otherwise, when I catch you rats, I'll crush you. The officer's hand jerked. He looked at me with disbelief, probably because my ferocious expression made me seem more threatening than the kidnappers. He was shocked someone would say such blatantly unlawful things in front of the police. A hoarse voice came from the other end, clearly disguised by a voice changer. From now on, every half hour I will cut off one of this woman's fingers. Guess, can you find me before all her fingers are gone? Li Zhaoshan's hands, her designer's hands, they couldn't be harmed. I gritted my teeth. What do you want me to do? The other party gave a raspy laugh. Nothing. Just listening to your good friend's screams is enough. Were you hired by He Yi? Whatever she's paying you, I'll double it. No, triple. The officer continued to look astonished. I remained calm, trying to bribe the kidnapper. The voice on the phone gave a cold laugh. Not necessary. I narrowed my eyes. So, you are He Yi. You're calling me personally. For what? Are you really so devoted to working for someone who once tried to kill you? The call disconnected. The officer let out a relieved breath. Got it. Simultaneously, the surveillance team also made progress. I let out a long breath too. Indeed, we can always trust the people's police. The officer sternly educated me. Do not threaten others, especially kidnappers. Antagonizing them could create significant complications for the rescue operation. I sincerely admitted my mistake, promising it wouldn't happen again. As I prepared to follow the police to the located address, I received a MMS. The photo showed Li Zhaoshan, disheveled and bloody-faced, collapsed on the floor, with two men in black standing over her. I'll give the great designer a taste of men before the police storm in. My grip on the phone tightened instantly. The officer called my name a few times. I stared at the phone for a long moment, lost in thought, before looking up and saying, I want to withdraw the report. He thought he misheard. What? I repeated, I want to withdraw the report. Stop the investigation. Then I walked out, hailed a taxi, and gave the driver the address the police had located. The purpose of involving the police was already achieved. Since we'd found He-Yi's hideout, handling the rest myself was fine. He-Yi had taken her to an old, run-down housing estate. The flats were small and shabby, reportedly slated for demolition by the council. I went up to one of the buildings and knocked on door 603. He opened the door. She was back in her usual attire, an elegant long dress, her long hair swept to one side, giving me a reserved smile. "You're here," she said, her manner as warm and natural as if welcoming a visiting friend. I calmly scanned the entrance hall and living room behind her, then stepped inside after a moment. This flat was bought for me by Anayan's elder brother, a gift after I returned to the country, she said mildly. I rarely come here, so there's not much to offer guests. Please forgive me. I turned and met her gaze for a moment, then raised an eyebrow and smiled. What are your thoughts? Looking at my face. He-Yi raised a hand to cover her mouth, laughing restrainedly. Thoughts? Just that I didn't realize Anayan missed me so much. If I'd known, I would have left him a phone number back then, so he wouldn't have to trouble his elder brother to find a carer like you. I was momentarily stunned by her verbal artistry. Truly, an educated person knows how to speak. Not like me, who slacked off after barely scraping into the same university as Li Xiaoshan, being as reckless as possible. The gap between people is truly incredible. I plopped down boldly on the sofa, not rushing to search the inner rooms for Li Xiaoshan, and smiled at He-Yi. Top-tier put-down artistry. You say I'm a carer, your replacement, I don't mind. But I'm quite curious. After you returned, did Fang Yanyan immediately rekindle his feelings for you? His white moonlight? He-Yi lowered her hand, her smile fading. That's none of your concern. Actually, I really had no interest in getting involved in your affairs initially. You remember, the night you returned, I clinked glasses with you all and left. After drinks, slightly tipsy. Tisk. How generous of me. Creating such a perfect opportunity for rekindling old flames. Pity you couldn't capitalize on it. I watched her face with interest, seeing her grow more and more stifled, a humiliated expression appearing. Clearly, based on Fang Yanyan's account, she must have had a very memorable night, and after that, was either ignored or mocked. Her days couldn't have been pleasant. That little Yandere Fang Yanyan, because he knew my capabilities, mostly restrained himself around me, not daring to be too outrageous. But in front of He-Yi, it was different. I'd seen him in the throes of his illness countless times. Someone as delicate as He-Yi would probably be terrified out of her wits. Yet she still wanted to confront me directly. It definitely wasn't to protect love, at least not her love with Fang Yanyan. Fang Yanyan is my boyfriend. She pressed her lips together, her expression turning cold and severe. You were tangled up with him. Do you want to be the other woman? I shrugged. I have no interest in meddling in others' relationships. But Miss He, you seem quite interested in that. Lili, don't be too arrogant. He-Yi took a deep breath, controlled her expression and smiled again. Have you forgotten? Your designer friend is still my guest here. I tilted my head. Miss He, are you disregarding the law a bit too much? Even if I didn't ring the police today, as long as Li Xiaoshan walks out of here alive, the police will invite you for tea. Unless you plan to die with both of us. Don't give the police a chance to catch you. He-Yi's pretty face, so similar to mine, twisted momentarily. I know what you want. You're just poor, aren't you? The money from his brother wasn't enough for you, was it? I'll give you 10 million. Leave this city, never come back, never appear before Anayan again. I was amazed. I never thought this kind of soap opera plot would play out in real life. Miss He, even so, you'll still go to prison. Miss He abruptly stood up, opening her mouth to shout. Do it. You! Expressionless, I pulled a pocket knife from my trouser pocket. Before He-Yi could react, I stepped forward and pressed the sharp blade against her vulnerable neck. Do it? I said with a mocking smile. With whom? A voice came from the direction of the main bedroom. Boss, which finger should we cut now? My gaze turned cold and I applied slight pressure with my fingers. The color drained from He-Yi's face. She froze for a moment, then trembling, called out again. It's fine. Stand down for now. I said nonchalantly. Miss He, I didn't quite hear you clearly earlier. You said you'd give me 10 million to do what? He Yi's lips trembled for a moment before she squeezed out the words. You'll be arrested too for this. I laughed. This is justifiable defense. Why would I go to jail? Besides, I haven't hurt you, Miss He. She gritted her teeth. How could Anayan possibly like a violent, crazy woman like you? He just does like my type. Probably because he's ill himself. I lowered my voice. You keep calling him Anayan. Are you really dealing with a rival in love? Or are you eliminating an unstable factor for your actual lover? ... I don't know what you're talking about. How could you not know? If Fang Yanman hadn't told you I found evidence of your affair, why would you take such a big risk? What? Are you so desperate to marry into wealth that you'd serve both brothers? Sue Lili. She sprang up as if stung, ignoring the blade nicking her skin, staring at me with wide, furious eyes. Why must you push me so far? Do you think I wanted this? Fang Yanman is a madman. Fang Yanyan is a little madman. Both brothers are sick. What could I do? Her elegant composure vanished completely. Like a lunatic, she grabbed my hand, trying to force the knife into her own neck, letting out loud laughs. Come on, kill me. Justifiable defense? Excessive defense still lands you in jail. If you won't let me go, you won't get off easy either. I used my other hand to press firmly on a specific point in the center of her chest. The hysterical He Yi stiffened, then collapsed backwards the next instant. I watched coldly as she fell onto the sofa. A look of terror crossed her face. What did you do? I said flatly, just making you quiet for a while. She indeed fell silent. After a good while, she spoke again. Sue Lili, I really envy you. Fang Yanman is wary of you. Fang Yanyan treasures you. Neither of them dares to go mad in front of you, do they? Do you know how I spent these 3 years abroad? I wasn't interested, but He Yi continued anyway. I really was almost dead back then. I barely clung to life. I thought, maybe I should just cut ties with the past, never return. But Fang Yanman found out I was alive. He wouldn't let me go. He flew to the States, forced me, threatened me. I had no choice but to comply. Later, Fang Yanman told me to return. He said Fang Yanyan had developed feelings for the replacement. He wanted me to come back and break you two up. How ridiculous. The one who drove me away and tried to kill me 3 years ago now wants me to be Fang Yanyan's girlfriend again. Marry into a rich family. You think I want that? If you want it so badly, you marry them. The whole family is mad. They'll drive you insane too. Sooner or later. She laughed hysterically. I listened patiently, then asked sincerely, why didn't you go to the police? She was taken aback. The police? Would it help? How could Fang Yanman let himself be threatened by the police? I didn't understand how she could have such an antisocial notion. The legal awareness of a top student. And it's like this? I said kindly. If the police were useless, how did I find this place? If the police were useless, why would I come in alone, without bringing a single officer? She stared at me blankly. I gave her a pitying smile. Thank you for implicating Fang Yanman. Don't worry. The police will ensure you get justice. I turned, opened the door, and the waiting police swarmed in, quickly subduing the 2 thugs in the main bedroom and carrying out the unconscious Li Zhaoshan. I added to the speechless, shocked He Yi. By the way, you were mistaken earlier. Both of them have gone mad in front of me. But I won't bother with a suspect like Fang Yanman. As for Fang Yanyan, I quite enjoy seeing him lose his mind over me. He Yi murmured, You're a mad woman too. Indeed, birds of a feather flock together. I rolled my eyes heavenward. Li Zhaoshan only suffered from shock and minor injuries. After receiving an IV drip at the hospital, she went home. I was still a bit worried about her safety, so I moved in with her. As there was ample evidence for the kidnapping charge, He Yi was detained. However, in her earlier emotional stage, she had inadvertently implicated Fang Yanman in cases of attempted murder and rape. So she now also had to cooperate with that investigation. Fang Yanman must have received the news, because the next day I didn't get any threatening letters. Presumably, he was busy pulling strings and trying to get He Yi released on bail. with no time to spare for a minor character like me. I told Fang Yannian the whole story. He was stunned by my heroic act of charging into the enemy's den alone, and immediately said, "Forget keeping distance. I'm coming to find you now. Are you at home?" After a moment's hesitation, I indulged his impulse and gave him Li Zhaoxun's address. As soon as he entered, he wrapped me in a solid embrace, his arms tightly locking around my shoulders, almost to the point of pain. I had to raise my hands with effort to ruffle his hair. "I'm fine." Even though I went in alone, the police were lying in ambush in the stairwell the whole time. How could I really be that naive? I'm not He Yi. After I told the police I wanted to withdraw the report yesterday, they quickly realized the kidnappers had threatened me. They changed into plain clothes and followed me to He Yi's estate, staying updated on my situation via phone call. If anything seemed wrong, they would have rushed in immediately to rescue me. I would never be like that crazy, foolish He Yi. When lives are at stake, how could you not call the police? Her head must be filled with water. Fang Yannian buried his face in my neck, nuzzling messily, and finally bit down in a venting manner. I hissed. "That's enough now, Fang Yannian," he said plaintively. "Gigi, why didn't you tell me before doing something so dangerous? If something really happened to you, ... I'd hate you for it. You were investigating such crucial things. I didn't want to cause you to lose control and alert Fang Yanmin." I cupped his face with both hands and pushed it back, then pinched his cheeks. "Anayan, I trust you. You have to trust me too." He gave a muffled and lowered his head to kiss me. A light cough sounded behind us. Fang Yannian and I both turned our heads. Li Zhaoxun said with a stern face, "What's with you two lovebirds? If you want to create PDA, please exit and turn right. You're not welcome here." I laughed. Fang Yannian, perceptively, picked up the fruit basket he had placed by his feet and handed it over, greeting Li Zhaoxun. Li Zhaoxun looked him over for a good while. "So Lili, it seems you didn't fall for him for no reason. No wonder that white moonlight came to pick a fight with you. Who would want to let go of such a high-quality man?" I smirked. "Ha, the one who fell isn't me, it's him." Fang Yannian intimately held my waist, smiling politely and restrainedly. "You look a bit tired. Perhaps you should go rest in your room for a while. I happen to have something I need to discuss with Su Lili. The corner of my mouth twitched. I raised my hand and pinched his waist. Fang Yannian's expression didn't change. Li Zhaoxun looked utterly done. "So, what did you want to say?" After Li Zhaoxun took the fruit to the kitchen, Fang Yannian got his wish and stuck to me on the sofa. He leaned with a smile, brushed his lips against mine, and said with a hint of boastfulness, "I found all the evidence. I've already handed it over to the police." I was taken aback. "Found it?" "NN. Tax evasion, bribery, embezzlement of public funds, plus attempted murder and rape. He definitely can't escape now." I finally noticed the relaxed, warm aura around Fang Yannian wasn't a pretense to reassure me, but genuine pleasure and relief. Yes, the shadow that had threatened him for years was finally being brought to justice. He could finally make a clean break from his chaotic past. Starts with the death penalty. Even with the most powerful legal team, it will be life imprisonment at the very least. No chance of a reduced sentence. I also curved my lips into a smile. "Well done, Anayan." He raised an eyebrow. "Of course, if Gigi can confront kidnappers face to face, I can't lag behind either." At Fang Yannian's strong urging, I terminated my rented flat lease and moved back into his place. Standing once more in the familiar environment, I realized just how many traces the two of us had left in this house. I pointed at the photo of Fang Yannian and me, placed openly on the living room shelf, and said incredulously, "You just left it here the whole time?" "Yeah, of course," he retorted, as if it were the most natural thing. I couldn't help but recall He Yi's expression, full of hatred and jealousy, during our two confrontations. "Anian, you really played a part in He Yi, kidnapping Li Zhaoxun, you know?" He cast a blank look my way, seemingly not seeing the connection. "This has always been our home. He Yi only came a few times and never stayed overnight. Later, to deal with Fang Yanmin, I went out with her a few times, but there were always other people present. Never went on a date alone with her. After saying this, he threw me a wink. Quite pleased with himself, isn't he? The next time I saw He Yi and Fang Yanmin was in court. Fang Yannian had hired a lawyer, so we didn't need to be on the plaintiff's side. Watching the trial from the audience was enough. Fang Yanmin looked uncharacteristically disheveled. Due to the economic crimes, all his assets were frozen, and his company was sealed. Once the verdict was passed, his assets would be liquidated. He might even go bankrupt, all his years of accumulation wiped out. Then there were Fang Yannian's parents. With their two sons opposing each other and ending up in court, they had clearly been pulling strings and running around exhaustively. They looked utterly weary, their eyes bloodshot. Fang's mother sat down next to us and asked hoarsely, "Anayan, I've always treated you as my own. All these years I believe I haven't treated you poorly. Why would you do this?" I immediately couldn't sit still. This was just emotional blackmail. When he was being bullied, you certainly didn't treat him as your own, I said sarcastically. What, is he just supposed to accept abuse, supposed to be driven to death? Is resisting the wrong thing to do? Fang's mother sighed heavily. They're brothers. There's nothing that can't be talked out. I cut her off immediately. Having a brother like that is worse than having none. I refused to believe Fang's parents were completely unaware of their elder son's abnormality. When Fang Yannian was first harmed, he was still young. He must have sought help from his parents immediately. But when I met him, his mental state was so bad. He didn't want to see his parents or brother. Seeing them made him lose control. Even so, they still chose to help the elder son control the younger one. Just because he was illegitimate. Or because he wasn't as outstanding as Fang Yanmin. After being rebutted by me a few times, Fang's mother's face turned somewhat ugly. Miss, I believe Amin fired you long ago. Why are you still by Anayan's side? This time, Fang Yannian spoke before I could. She's my fiancée. I looked at him with an incredulous expression. Since when am I your fiancée? Was there a proposal? Where's the ring? The roses? Just like this? In the court audience, while Fang Yanmin is glaring at me from the defendant's dock, Fang Yannian turned back to me with an ingratiating smile, then turned back to his mother and said, word by word, "She is the woman I've decided to spend the rest of my life with." Fang's mother's face visibly darkened. Don't even think about marrying her. I won't allow a woman like her into the Fang family. Fang Yannian retorted, what if I insist on marrying her? I'm right here, the other party involved. Are you just deciding unilaterally? Did I agree to marry you? Fang's mother glared at me, then dropped the lawsuit. Let your brother come home safely, and I'll agree. I flatly refused. No, I can choose not to marry, but Fang Yanmin must go to prison. Fang Yannian also flatly refused. No. Su Lili must marry me, and Fang Yanmin must go to prison. My expression soured alongside Fang's mother's. I gritted my teeth and whispered in his ear. You've got some nerve, Fang Yannian, daring to force a sale. He also leaned in, his voice full of delight. Su Lili, I won't let you go. I kept a straight face and pinched his waist. When you can beat me in a fight, then you can talk tough. His face contorted for a second. He caught my hand and smiled helplessly. Gigi, just take pity on me and accept me. On Fang Yannian's handsome face was a warm, completely unshadowed smile, carrying a hint of pleading and fervent affection. Even though I noticed Fang Yanmin's glare from the dock had grown even darker, I smiled even more happily. Right then, I'll reluctantly accept you. You'd better behave well. He blinked, implying, I guarantee your satisfaction. Thoroughly ignored, Fang's mother left in a huff and sat in the back row. I felt Fang Yannian's tense muscles relax instantly, so I reached out and scratched his chin. They can't hurt you anymore. He beamed. I've already moved my household registration out. You don't need to worry about them blocking it. The Fang family register is yours to join. When the verdict was being read, Fang Yannian tightly grasped my hand, so hard it was almost uncomfortable. Before I could say anything, he quickly let go. Then he pulled something from his pocket and, right after Fang Yanmin was led away, placed it in my palm. I looked down and nearly choked. You're really proposing here. Don't you have any romantic bone in your body, Fang Yannian? But he insisted on slipping the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, because this is the most important moment of my life. he said solemnly by my ear. So Lili, from now on I'm free. I turned to look at him, saw the slight redness at the corners of his eyes, and after a moment, smiled helplessly and tenderly. Fine then, I said, stroking the ring. I'll reluctantly agree to be added to your household register. Fang Yanyan's eyes lit up, not caring about the approaching lawyer or the court staff who hadn't all left yet. He lowered his head and kissed me. I soothingly stroked the nape of his neck, gave a light, teasing bite on his lips, then pushed him away. All right, there are still things to handle, I said, smiling. We have plenty of time later. Don't be so impatient.